It is Wednesday of Holy Week, and didn't get as much sleep last night because at about midnight, um, the warnings started going off on the phone. The tornado siren in town went off, and many of you probably experienced the same thing. And that just reminded me as I was then awake, I got my kids up and moved them down in the basement. Um, I was awake for a while then, and it got me thinking about how Jesus warned his disciples about what was going to happen in Holy Week, about how he kept telling them about what must happen to him, how he must suffer and die. And in Mark chapter 8, he tells them that right after Peter has confessed that he believes that Jesus is the Messiah. And when Jesus says all these things must happen, it says that Peter reprimanded Jesus. And he says that's he won't allow such things to happen. It would be like me going out and shouting at the tornado siren last night. There's no tornado that's going to happen on my watch. I'll never allow a tornado to hit this house. It's Peter thinks he can control a lot more than he can control. And Jesus turns around to Peter, and that's when he says, "Get away from me, Satan. You're seeing things merely from a human point of view and not from God's." And then it tells us that he turns and he speaks to the crowds. And he tells the crowds this: "If any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way, take up your cross, and follow me. If you try to hang on to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake, for the sake of the good news, you will save it. What do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul? Is anything worth more than your soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my message in these adulterous and sinful days, the Son of Man will be ashamed of that person when he returns in the glory of his Father with the holy angels." Some people think in times like this, in times of crisis, when things are difficult, that it becomes easier for people to follow Jesus. It's not easier, just more convenient for some people because they need something to hope in. They need someone greater than themselves that they believe can help them with the problem that they can't solve, that they can't fix. And I believe the opposite, at least of right now. I believe it's what's happening here is making it increasingly difficult for people to follow Jesus, particularly to be connected to church. Because in America, we've had such a culture of consumer Christianity. You know, people go to church and they throw their money in the plate for the show. And if they don't like the show, they go somewhere else. Well, now things like throwing in the money in the plate are harder. It takes effort on your part. It's not coming to you. You have to go to it. And it's much more convenient to not do things like that. You don't have the constant accountability of people asking us to read the scripture or people to sit and pray with us. I think there's an illusion that we are taking up our cross and following Jesus before by going to church on a Sunday morning. And now we've stripped that illusion away. And we're forced to day in, day out, as these days just kind of meld together. And it's hard to even know what day of the week it is sometimes. We're forced to ask ourselves, how am I going to follow Jesus today? Stuck here in my house. How am I going to give up my way and take up the cross and follow him? Am I trying to hang on to my life, or am I giving up my life as Jesus gave up his life for me? That's always the challenge of Holy Week, recognizing Jesus gave up his life so that we could have life. And finding how you can give up your life for him is the everyday challenge of our Christian faith. With all the trappings stripped away, there's not going to be any big cantatas for church this year, for Easter. There's not going to be photo booths. There's no giveaways. There's no Easter egg hunts. There's not all this stuff we've dressed up Easter with. It's just Jesus. Just the cross. It's just an empty tomb. Is that enough for you? Because it's what matters. It's what's important. And that alone should make you want to do whatever you can to give up your life so that you can find new life in the one who conquered death. How are you taking up your cross today? Even in quarantine, we have to take up a cross and follow him. So how are you doing that? As we continue these day by day on the journey to his cross, how are you taking up your cross to find more of him and to find more of what he has? Are you ashamed of him? Or are you freely giving your life to him?